All right, Stokastic, here we go. It's your old pal Emac coming to you on a Sunday night here. A little Sunday night football. I've got Greg Ehrenberg here with me. We had a busy day of baseball. The LOL Mets LOL'd. The Malik Neighbors injury is going to give them some cover, I think, in the New York media for a little bit here. But it was exciting. Oh, and I didn't see who got the wild card over Cleveland and Detroit. I know they both made it in.
Cleveland won the division.
Okay. So that the massive comeback, but Detroit did not finish off their epic collapse. They collapsed, but at least they made the playoffs. So,
they did.
Yeah.
Because the Astros won almost no games over the course of the last week and a half.
Well, go Mariners is all I can say. So, it was funny. I had written up the article, and don't worry, we'll get to football here in just a second, everybody. We've got people gathering. I'd written up the final Saturday baseball article, and in my mind, the Mariners were the 3 seed because the Yankees and Toronto were had a better record. And it didn't even occur to me that one of them was going to be the wild card, so the Mariners were actually the 2nd seed. So then when someone said, oh, yeah, they're not playing next week, I'm like, yeah, yes, they are. No, they're not. They have the second seed, even though they have the 3rd best record. So, hey, there's something new for you. But, yeah, exciting. And Toronto was so far ahead, I had just kind of had them in a little tier of their own. So, yeah, it was an interesting down the stretch for baseball. But we've got football here. We saw Patrick Mahomes looking pretty good, 4 touchdowns. We saw Ashton Genty get in the end zone a couple times there. Ben called out his long run to go for the longest carry, which easily was eclipsed on that 60-yard touchdown run. So it was a good day out there. It was a good day. Did you have anything out there on tails?
Yeah, I had lots of bets that went up on tails. I was finishing up grading them right as we were starting here. So let's see. I had, how many bets did I post today? Yeah, I had a little bit over 20 bets. The one thing I needed to check was how many receiving yards Hollywood Brown finished with, because a couple of bets that I had, once Worthy was officially declared that he was going to play earlier in the week, I had an over on Xavier Worthy, 37.5 receiving yards, and then I had under 46.5 receiving yards for Hollywood Brown. So I just need to grade those 2 bets, and then I will have all my bets booked for the Sunday slate. But yeah, it was a really good one for me. It looks like, at least of the ones that I've graded so far, I was 13-8. So just need to figure out how those last couple of bets played out by looking at the box score. But yeah, I profited in DFS. I profited in betting. And no massive hits for me in DFS. Came pretty close, though. My best lineup finished in 9th over on Owner's Box. So I was right there in the big GPP on Owner's Box. I had some good ones at the top of FanDuel as well. So overall, really good profits. None of like the 5+ figure wins, but I was pretty happy with some of the 4-figure wins.
Yeah, it's always good. It's always good to get a few of those in now, because it takes some of that painful losing feeling that you get all day Sunday when things don't go your way in NFL main slate. I see in chat someone is saying they're tired of losing. I get that. But you're in the right place here. You found Stokastic. This is where we say stop losing, start winning. Join Stokastic today, and we'll talk about some ways to get in there.
By the way, it's stop guessing, start winning is the tagline. Close though.
You know what? All I do is win. Isn't that a song?
All I do is win no matter what.
All right. Team Free Money has a couple $1 head-to-heads, literally like 2 left there in the DK lobby. So jump in and get those. Username Emac. I was going to do the Fred VanVleet contest this year. Again, Greg, no Fred VanVleet. Very sad. But we have we have basketball. Dear God. We have the NFL. I was trying to figure out how to lead in with the injuries, because CeeDee Lamb not being available casts a large shadow across the Dallas offense. So that's going to make some create some changes and some ripple effect. Both teams are without a couple offensive linemen. I believe Green Bay's without 3, so they've got people shuffling around and sliding all over the place. Dallas, I think, is without 2. A couple of the Dallas secondary guys are back. I didn't see the inactives list, but I'm assuming Diggs is playing tonight. He was did not have any injury designation heading into tonight. So that's all going to be interesting. We know that this is a remember me game here for Micah Parsons. This morning he was minus 193 to get a sack tonight. That's pretty good. It's going to happen.
Do you look at? I don't very frequently look at the sacks markets. I assume that is a very, very short number. What are like some of the crazy short numbers? I don't know if it's something you look at regularly, because I never look at
Sure. So I look at that every now and then. It's kind of like walks in baseball. It's just one of those weird ones that if you kind of think there's something going on or an edge or you might feel that this particular catcher does XYZ when this pitcher's here and everybody runs on him or whatever it might be. So with sacks, you got to be careful because they'll give you a half, because remember, there's half sacks in the NFL, and they'll give you a 3/4. So basically 3/4 is saying, well, you got to have 2 half sacks or a whole sack. And his line was, I think it was minus 193 for a half sack, and it was like 140 for 3/4, or vice versa. It was
gotcha.
But usually they don't have everybody out there because I don't think people go chase that market. And you got it. Like this was on DK and Hard Rock, but then there's large swaths of games that just don't have that, and sites that just don't offer it. Sort of like you can't bet unders on college football player props at a lot of places. It's things of that nature. So, but I don't look at it all the time. But come on, we had to for today. The only other wrinkle that was fun for today, hat tip to Sean V, RIP, was Spencer Rattler and Tyler Show both share a birthday, and it's today. Kind of weird.
Ooh, look at you with the birthdays. The other thing that I'm never aware of is looking up whose birthday is when. I used to rely on RIP Sean V for that. Sean V was every show. He would always be in chat. First thing, he'd let us know who everybody's birthday was for the day. And it never occurred to me until he would bring it up.
Yes. But I saw that. And I'm like, well, who would have appreciated this one? I know someone who would have. All right. So let's talk about the quarterbacks here. So key things that you need to know is, despite probably some preconceived notions, neither one of these guys is a running quarterback. They're mobile. They can move in the pocket, but they don't run. Since he took over the starting role, Jordan Love has just over 10 rushing yards per game. It's not very much at all. And Prescott, even though we thought of him, he runs. His first 3 years, he had 6 rushing touchdowns each of those 3 seasons, and he had that gruesome ankle injury, but he never had yards behind it. So that's one thing that you want to think about. But with the way the player pool is tonight, both those guys are viable captains or MVPs on FanDuel, and Love is getting the love from the simulations here. So I found that was interesting, because usually you'd be like, oh yeah, we don't want to go down that path. But with the way things are today, I think we may end up going that route. Speaking of routes, Jaden Reed had ankle or foot surgery on the Jones fracture, and his clavicle, he had a surgery on that last week. He is probably going to be out till about Thanksgiving. Christian Watson. He's the speedy guy. He coming off the ACL. He's not going to be back for a couple more weeks. Very soft on that, but they think he'll be back before the end of next month. So that leaves Dobbs, Wicks, and the rookie Matthew Golden as the pass catchers. But the real pass catcher, Greg, and then I'm going to hand it over to your thoughts for the passing game for the Packers, is Tucker Kraft. Leads the team in targets. Granted, it's just 15. We saw this last year as well on a lot of the showdown slates and into the playoffs. He is someone that does not have to compete with the rest of the wide receivers, and the tight ends, they're no competition for him. Last year, I think he had something like 70 of the 83 targets went to him. This year, that was 80%. This year, 70% of the targets to the tight end position have gone to him. So even though you'll see Fitzpatrick out there and Musgrave, he is the guy. So it's interesting that the receivers are like, confetti up in the air. It's very concentrated with Tucker Kraft. So what are your thoughts on the passing game for the Packers?
Sure. One general thought on Jaden Reed in a weird way. Obviously, the collarbone, shoulder, whatever is that we're calling the clavicle injury.
The collarbone is the clavicle. It's you know.
So in a weird way, it's probably a net positive for him in the long run this year because he had this Jones fracture in his foot that he was like, I'm going to play through it. Which it's really hard for me to think that he was going to be able to grind out a Jones fracture and be at 100% throughout the entirety of the season. And then you consider how good the Packers have looked overall to start the season. I know that they did lose to the Browns, but I think we'd safely say this Packers team is playoff bound. I would be very surprised if they don't make the playoffs. I think it is so much more important that Jaden Reed is healthy at the tail end of the season than he plays at the beginning part of the season. And I think it was just a matter of time before he was going to be unable to play through the foot injury. So now you're in the situation where, sure, he's going to miss a couple of months of games, but he's going to be ready for the highest leverage games, which I think is so much more valuable to the Green Bay Packers. Now, as far as this is going to pertain for the team for now and moving forward is this team is so deep with pass catchers. And now it gets a little bit simpler because we've taken, somebody out of the mix for this team. And if you go ahead and you look, see, by the way, I had sorted by here the most duped lineups because somebody in chat had asked that. And I do usually like to throw that up on screen for some of the dupes. So a couple of things I like to look at here with the Green Bay Packers. First off is where do I like to go for salary savings? And to me, I think Dontavian Wicks is one of the best salary saving options on the entire slate at just $4K. And then on the other hand, it's where do we want to go for upside in the passing game for the Green Bay Packers? And this is where I'm going to be looking at Matthew Golden because I think he is the widest range of outcomes of any of the Green Bay Packers pass catchers. But I also think that comes with a ton of upside. I think he is the lowest floor and the highest ceiling of any of these wide receivers. He gets the largest or the longest depth of target of any of these guys. If Jordan Love is throwing to one of these wide receivers downfield, more often than not, it's Matthew Golden. He also has game-breaking speed. So on the high end, he's a very boom-bust option, but I like going to Matthew Golden at modest ownership. He's under 30% owned. That's pretty solid for a showdown slate. And then if I'm going cheap, I really like Dontavian Wicks as a salary-saving option, Emac.
That is exactly my thoughts, and also as was written up in the free article. So I saw someone a little salty in chat, and that's okay. That's okay. I'm going to put the link to the free article. This is for all the primetime games. Stokastic puts out a free article here. I break down both teams by position and rank the entire player pool. I spend about 3 to 4 hours writing this article. So if you want the information, you want the good stuff all in there, the background, it's a 10-minute read tops, probably closer to 5. And that is where you get some of the best information here that you're going to get. On these shows, we're going to talk about the tools, how things work, where the rest of the industry is coming in, where we've seen other content providers call out different things, etc. So I recommend reading that article as your baseline. It's just a quick scan, and even if you just look at the bottom section where I rank every player, and I call out if they're better on DraftKings or FanDuel as well, because the blue side has made things more interesting with the multiplier on their salary for their MVP slot. So check that out, and then you can read it at your leisure. On the Dallas side here, so we saw some interesting things. Kevontae Turpin ended up with a 66% snap rate. CeeDee Lamb went down. It was less than 10 plays into the game. I forget if it was 7 or 9. So Turpin ended up getting a larger role. And then Jalen Tolbert is getting, I think he had like an 80% snap rate. So these guys didn't get a lot of targets. So if you look at it, they only got like 3 targets. That's not very much. They were out on the field a ton. Now, my supposition is, and some other people on ESPN, et cetera, have mentioned this, they think Turpin he'll probably have a similar offensive opportunities, but they think he'll play a little bit less. And it could be, I'm blanking on that. Is it Fortnite? Who's their third wide receiver?
I thought for a second you were saying Fortnite.
No, yeah, the video game.
Yeah.
Flournoy. I got Dave Portnoy stuck in my head. No, Flournoy is who it is.
Do you mean Kevontae Turpin?
No, I think Turpin's going to play less than he did last week. I think he's going to get the same amount of target opportunities. I think he'll get 3 targets and 2 or 3 carries. But I think
I'm just trying to figure out which wide receiver. Justin Tolbert? Which wide receiver?
Ryan Flournoy.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I don't consider him to be the Cowboys' 3rd wide receiver.
That's a fair point, but he is tonight. He is tonight because Tolbert is technically their 2nd wide receiver. And then, of course, we have former Pittsburgh Steeler George Pickens. So, and burying the lead, Fergalicious, massive fantasy point PPR season already for Jake Ferguson. So there are plenty of options for Prescott to go to, but no one is CeeDee Lamb. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is a top 4 wide receiver in the league. He's one of the most complete guys. He's up there with Jefferson and Chase and Amon-Ra St. Brown, who can literally do it all, run all 9 routes, can do everything, work out of the slot, work outside, etc. He's gone. So what that probably will do is they'll roll more coverage over to Pickens, is my thought. So I'm a little nervous about him. It's a long way of getting there. Ferguson is somebody I love. Interesting note on him. He hasn't scored a touchdown in 22 regular season games. We complain about Trey McBride, but hey, Ferguson doesn't have that many either. His salary is perfectly appropriate because of the volume he's been getting, and he's been converting on an excellent catch rate. But he's got to get in the end zone to return value on that salary. So I think he's a building block, but I think the field's a little too rich on him. What are your Dallas Cowboy assessments there?
Shout out to Shamar, who said Matthew Golden breakout games tonight. I hope so. I'm playing a good amount of him in tournaments for today. Let's see. What do I have for exposure for the Dallas Cowboys pass catchers? You guys could see here what's showing up in the Sims with no adjustments being made on screen right here. And our data does like Jake Ferguson a pretty good amount here, Emac. So for myself with the Dallas pass catchers, I actually have a little bit more exposure to the run game. We'll get to that in a little bit. But as far as pass catchers go for Dallas, I am getting myself to – I'm kind of spread out with the pass catchers. But on the cheaper end, it is Kevontae Turpin, who's showing up in lineups for me. I've got a little bit around 30% of them. He's showing with lineup in mid 20% of lineup. So like you mentioned, no CeeDee Lamb today. So now you have to figure out, okay, what ends up happening with the targets? We got a little bit of a taste of this last week because CeeDee Lamb got hurt on his very first touch of the game, ended up trying to come back into the game, but wasn't able to run on the ankle. So they had to take him out of the game fairly quickly. But here's how the targets broke down last week. It was a lot of looks towards Jake Ferguson and George Pickens. You got 14 targets for Ferguson. You got 9 targets for Pickens. And then as far as the other guys went, Turpin got 3 targets. Jalen Tolbert got 6 targets. Flournoy, by the way, got 3 targets for him. It was somewhat spread out with the biggest concentration going to George Pickens and Jake Ferguson. One thing that is kind of funny about George Pickens, Emac, when you think of George Pickens and his production fantasy output, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear George Pickens' name?
Deep passes.
Yeah, I would think deep passes, high variance, inconsistency. He's put up the exact same stat line exactly the last 2 games. I don't know if you're aware of this. Against the Giants, 9 targets, 5 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown. Against the Bears last week, 9 targets, 5 catches, 68 yards, and a touchdown. If he has 9 targets and catches 5 of them for 60 yards and a touchdown, I think the world is coming to an end. I think it's the rapture. That's the only thing that would make sense if George Pickens puts up the literal exact same stat line 3 weeks in a row. But the point that I want to get at here is that if I am going to be going on the cheaper end, kind of the same way with the Packers. I have a preferred cheaper guy and I have a preferred pay up guy, but there are a lot of the Dallas pass catchers. You can make a case for pretty much all of them with CeeDee Lamb being out in the available targets, but I'm looking at Turpin on the low end. He at $4,400 is my favorite value pass catcher from Dallas. And then on the high end, the choice is in between Pickens and in between Ferguson. And I lean a little bit more towards Ferguson. I don't have quite as much as what the Sims have without making any adjustments, where the Sims without any adjustments, he's in 42% of lineups in the flex spot. And then in the captain spot, he's showing up in another 5% of lineups. But Emac, I get that he hasn't been scoring touchdowns, but look at that line that he had last week. He drew 14 targets. That is so much volume to overcome even a potential lack of looks in the red zone. He was targeted 14 times. He got 13 of them for 82 yards. If you tell me he's going to be getting, 12 plus targets again, I think we're probably looking at a pretty good game for Jake Ferguson. So I slightly prefer him over George Pickens just because of the volume.
See, some of these names are tricky. I'm not alone.
Yeah, you say a bunch of them really fast, and they'll blend together a little bit.
And Greg's good at speed talking. He'll show off that skill set.
I'll have to read some phone numbers later.
In a little bit, yes. So key things there is there are a myriad of paths that we can go down for both teams. The tight ends do feel the most safe for those of you looking to build those foundational lineups. I think that's a perfectly good approach. But the upside could go anywhere for these touchdowns. Be it Turpin or Pickens or Golden or Wicks or whomever, right? So that makes this pretty exciting here. I see that Jadon Blue is not active. I kind of thought he might be active, maybe like now, just for another playmaker potentially out there. I guess not. So that to me secures Turpin a little bit. Turpin had made the Pro Bowl 2 of the last 3 years, his rookie year, and then he made it last year as well. So we know he is a very dynamic playmaker. It's kind of redundant to have him and Jadon Blue out there, but when you don't have CeeDee Lamb, you may need to find a spark from somewhere. So I thought he was going to be active. I was wrong though. The running games. So Josh Jacobs, pretty good.
Yeah.
Kind of just dominate. I mean, this feels like a 2-touchdown game for him. We shall see. His backups, Brooks, and I closed out my article where I write all this good information down. Emmanuel Wilson are interesting for potential fourth quarter mop-up duty. We are seeing Wilson get a little bit more it's 3 games, but a little bit more action in the running game. But if it's a close game, it's going to be Jacobs all the time. And he is a complete player. He can catch the ball, even though he doesn't get that many touchdowns through the air. He is an adequate receiver. So it's better than like a Derrick Henry. So he is an easy click. The other guys, they're cheap enough. You can play with him. I don't think that's an issue, but you can, kind of your angle with the other two is you're hoping for some mop-up duty there in the fourth quarter. What is your read on the Dallas side? Because it sounds like you are interested in making a stand potentially with Javonte Williams. I'm assuming it's not Miles Sanders.
Yeah, so I am well overweight to the field on both the starting running backs, Josh Jacobs and Javonte Williams in this game. So the other thing that was interesting about the workload for Javonte Williams last week in the absence of CeeDee Lamb is he got more involved in the pass game as well. We saw 5 targets for Javonte Williams last week. So I think this is a really good game to be rostering both of the running backs. For Josh Jacobs, this Cowboys defense is dog shit without Micah Parsons. I mean, Russell Wilson, this is, I don't know this for sure. I haven't done the research on it, Emac, but I feel pretty good about this. Russell Wilson has to be the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for over 400 yards and then be benched for performance after the following week. Like, there's just no way that's ever happened before. But that's because anybody could light up this Packers defense seemingly at any point in time. They've gotten gouged by everybody so far this year. So I do fully expect the Green Bay Packers to win this game, and I think it's going to be Josh Jacobs grinding out the clock with the football in his hands in the second half in the later stages of this game. So I love Josh Jacobs. And then for Javonte Williams, even though this is not a traditionally good game script for a running back, considering that he was so involved in the passing game last week, I think that he has that kind of added utility for him for this game for fantasy production as well. So actually the 2 skill position players I have the most exposure to, number 1 is Josh Jacobs and 2 is Javonte Williams tonight.
Interesting. Okay. I like it. I see the projections are for Stokastic are not as excited by, excited is a bit of a misnomer. Counting his $2,000 salary, Ryan Flournoy not really getting the love with just 2 fantasy points in full PPR. So basically, we're saying he's going to get a catch in 10 yards. Turpin Turpin's not sneaky. We know all about Turpin from prior showdowns because Dallas, of course, is America's team and they're on TV a lot. But he is not going to be a sneaky play anywhere in this. I was just seeing it as we just got an update 4 or 5 minutes ago. If anything else came in that I found interesting, Jalen Tolbert, 7.3 fantasy points. That's not too shabby for 3,800 there. So while we don't have the extreme cheapies that have a realistic projection, if we look at Brevin Spanford or Schoonmaker or Cropper, they barely get register as even a fraction of a fantasy point. So even though they're 200, 400, 600 on DraftKings, it's not really worth it. And you don't need to go there because you could always just go with Savion Williams, who's the 4th/5th wide receiver for the Packers. How funny is it that they turned Bo Melton into a cornerback because they just had so many receivers? And shout out to him for making the actual roster out of training camp, switching positions that late in his career.
Yeah, it's like you don't see as much of it in football. More so baseball, you'll see guys who struggle as an outfielder, and then they're just like, I'll become a pitcher, or somebody who's like a pretty good athlete as a shortstop that all of a sudden converts to a center fielder or something like that. But yeah, it's not too often somebody struggles on the offensive side of the ball in football is just like, I'll just try as a cornerback, and then ends up being pretty good at that spot.
Especially in today's game. I mean, you used to see it a little bit more even in the 70s and 80s, but particularly now. All right, so that kind of leaves the kickers here. So Brandon Aubrey, he is the gold standard of kickers. Winding path to get here. He was a soccer player in college, professional soccer player after that in some tertiary leagues. Came in, this will be his 3rd year. He has made the Pro Bowl, I think, both years, and he was the All-Pro kicker, first team his rookie year. He's 30 years old now, and then last year he was the All-Pro second team. He has done all sorts of just phenomenal things, and especially at distance. And Jerry World is one of the most kicking-friendly places, even including all of the domes, the way it's set up. So that is very, very exciting. You have Brandon McManus on the other side, a longtime kicker for Denver, popped around with a couple other teams. He ended up replacing, I forget who it was, Braden Nardison last year for the Packers. He missed like 4 or 5 field goals in the first few games. So he ended up taking over. He did miss 2 in the last couple games. One was blocked, McManus, but I don't think he's on the hot seat. But I just found that a little bit interesting because kickers are such an important part of Showdown. But Aubrey, he is in my cash game lineup. That's how highly I think of him. That's not a hot take by any stretch. He is just that good. Defenses, anything you want to add for kicker here?
Yeah, I'm overweight to both the kickers. As far as value options go, in the 4K range, Wicks and Turpin are my favorite guys to be getting to. In the 5K range, though, it's Aubrey and it's McManus. This is almost certainly not 100% true, but it does feel to be the case. Does it not seem like every Cowboys primetime game the last 2 years, Aubrey has been in the winning lineup, and easily so? Like, he bangs in a couple of long 50-yard field goals. You're at halftime, he's already at like 13 fantasy points at $5,600, and everybody's like, oh, how is Brandon Aubrey only 18% on? I feel like that happens every Showdown slate that the Cowboys are on.
I wanted to see. So kickers, some of the season-long sites have changed, and they've made 60-yard field goals worth 6 points now. DraftKings and FanDuel are still 5 for anything over 50. But it was I believe it was both Yahoo and ESPN, and those dinosaurs hardly ever changed for anything. I mean, God, ESPN didn't even go to PPR scoring as the default until 3 years ago. So it's very interesting. Just how good these kickers are these days with the kicking ball, the mechanics, the studying it, just everything that's going into it. So I wish they went to 6 points. I'm going to write a strongly worded email, Greg.
Very, very strongly worded with correct punctuations and exclamation marks. Also, people are asking us about Miles Sanders because we didn't really touch on him very much. So as far as the backup running backs go, I don't have a ton of interest in them. Miles Sanders has performed pretty decently from a fantasy standpoint, but I don't find the salary savings to be all that necessary because you've got teams that are kind of banged up as far as pass catchers go, and you just get guys who are marginally more expensive than Sanders who project a lot better. So just look here at our projections, for instance. We've got Miles Sanders projected for 5 fantasy points at 3K. But then you look at Dontavian Wicks is projected for 10 fantasy points at 4K. Turpin's projected for 9 fantasy points at $4,400. So if you spend just $1,000 more, you're going to be getting guys who are projecting for, once again, Miles Sanders, 5 fantasy points compared to 10 for Wicks, 9 for Turpin. So for $1,000 more, you're getting like double the fantasy point projection. There's just comparably priced guys that project better than Sanders that make him hard for me to prioritize.
No, that absolutely makes sense. Things that people need to prioritize. If you could put the graphic up, I'm going to drop the link into chat here for the link join. This is the Stokastic link join offer that we have. We've added a new operator to your options. That would be. Why am I blanking on it now? Because it's not
Onyx. So Onyx, one other thing to add about Onyx Emac is they're new-ish, not like brand new or anything like that. But one thing that is really nice about Onyx is they are available in 40 plus states now. So there is a very, very good chance that whatever state you live in, whether you have sports betting, you don't have sports betting, that you could play over on Onyx. And all you have to do is follow these easy steps we have on screen right here. Go through there's a link down below in the YouTube description box. Just click on that. It's going to bring you to this landing page. Just pick one of the promos below. You have to go through that link just because that's how we get credited for it, because it is these sportsbooks who actually pay for your subscription to Stokastic. Sign up using the offer, deposit, place a bet, take screenshots of the welcome email on your first settled bet, and then email support@stokastic.com with screenshots and tell us which league you would like. And then that will be NewsGod, who will promptly respond to you. So all you have to do, sign up at this page for any of the books here that are on site, and look at the deal that Onyx Odds has. All you have to do, a $10 deposit, Emac. Spend $10 there, and they're going to give you $100 in Onyx cash. That's a pretty good deal. $10. They're going to give you $100, and then you're also going to get a free month of Stokastic Sims for any sport of your choosing. That's a lot of value for just $10. So take advantage of that Onyx offer. We see some of these sites come and go, and this is one of the better offers that I can remember in a minute.
Absolutely. And when Greg means sites come and go on this list, these sites will be around, but they once they realize we have people that are smart are going to take them up on their offer, and we have savvy wagerers going into this. They tend to change out and go for greener pastures, greener for them, not for you. I did want to add for Sanders, his playing time or his snap share has gone up from 18% to 22% to 36%. I think he's going to kind of top out in that 25 to 30% range if Javonte Williams is able to maintain his effectiveness. As Greg pointed out, he has done very nicely this year. Now he's, 2.5 years removed from that, shredding everything in his knee. So it does look like he is not quite as dusty as the kids thought during best ball season here. So I think he is somewhat intriguing. Looking at all of the other information here, I think we've imparted the wisdom that we can. The Dallas defense, you're gonna hard. You're counting on a splash play, if you will, a scoop and score, a kick return, a pick six. So they're not that exciting. Also not exciting are the Luke Schoonmakers, Brevin Span, Ford, Hunter Lupke. Those guys are just not exciting at all. So I think that hits all of the keynotes.
We didn't talk about the quarterbacks yet.
Well, we sort of did by proxy. So as I mentioned, neither are running quarterbacks. Jordan Love is, I hate saying a glorified game manager, but I don't think he can win games on his own. So I'm going to put him in that bucket. But he is a very decent option tonight. as the multiplier because of what we're seeing of very spread out offenses aside from Brandon Jacobs. We don't really know where the touchdowns are going to go. So that makes, who has the ball in their hand on every play. It's the quarterback. So that makes them interesting. And then Prescott has been here before, right? He's been with limited offensive options. He's been here with crappy offensive line. Hasn't gone against a defense quite this good in a while with the one hand tied behind his back. Micah Parsons now has him one hand tied behind his back, hopping on his foot, but he is still Dak Prescott, who's a pretty good quarterback. Does he get 300 yards? I don't believe so today. 250, decent chance. Multiple touchdowns, I do think he's going to get 2 touchdowns. My thoughts on the quarterbacks. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, hard to not prioritize Jordan Love. If you could only pick one of the quarterbacks to roster, either Love or Prescott, given what we've seen out of the Cowboys' pass defense, mentioned it before, Russell Wilson threw for, what was the exact final stat line on Russell Wilson in that game? Russell Wilson, who was just throwing blind moon balls. He was just dropping back to pass, closing his eyes, and just launching the ball as high as he could in the air. He finished with 450 passing yards and 3 touchdowns against this Cowboys pass defense. And Russell Wilson, in his other starts this year, threw for 168 yards with a 59 passer rating, 160 yards with a 43 passer rating, and then nearly like a perfect passer rating in that game against the Cowboys. Jordan Love, football never works how it should, but how it should work is Jordan Love should destroy this team, and there should be a little bit of justice to make the Cowboys on national TV against Micah Parsons really look weak on defense and really embarrass Jerry Jones. I don't know who's a fan of Jerry Jones other than Jerry Jones, but he thinks he's
other than Jerry Jones.
He thinks he's the main character of the Cowboys franchise. You're not. You're just an old guy who signed some paychecks and has a lot of money. He said this game is really important to him. He's like, we're going to do everything we can to win this week to try to prove some sort of point to Micah Parsons. The only thing, what is he? I was confused. I was like, what are you going to do? What is he going to do from his box? What is he going to do to impact the game? Either way, though, what should happen here is the Cowboys defense should get shredded by Jordan Love, and I much prefer playing Jordan Love to Dak Prescott. It's not to say that Dak Prescott, quarterbacks are almost always good options for Showdown, but I'm very heavily prioritizing getting to Jordan Love. Jordan Love is my most overall rostered player in this game, and then it's the running backs behind him for me, Josh Jacobs, and then Javonte Williams. So also, as far as Josh Jacobs goes, I have no issue pairing Josh Jacobs and Jordan Love in the same lineup. Sure.
There are no pairings, teammates, or otherwise that I would avoid tonight.
By the way, shout out to Sotex, who says, Greg and Emac, thanks for the excellent goofy analysis. That's all we can do is be goofy. We're going to all of a sudden turn into serious people? How is this possible?
Yeah, when it's Sunday mornings and the NFL start early, usually around 6:30, writing articles, writing the tomorrow article. I don't get to watch a lot of the football throughout the day. Then I got to go run errands and try to stay married and not divorced. So yeah, by the time we get to nighttime, especially like today when I didn't get a nap, it's silliness abounding. So we're glad you're here for the ride. Hit that like button. That would help us out a lot. We really, really appreciate that. We have 10 minutes until lock. I have got my upload file ready. I just now need to run some lineups here. I'm looking forward to this.
We got a question from Einsteinium in chat. He wants to know, would we consider playing lineups that do not have Love or Prescott in them? So talking about lineups that don't have either. So what I did here was I filtered by the top 150 lineups that have neither quarterback, and there's there's a handful that project pretty well without either of them, Emac. But for the most part, I've got 150 lineups favorited here. And of those 150 lineups, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 10 of them have neither of the quarterbacks. So is it viable? Yes. But on the whole, it is very, very strongly preferred to have at least one of the quarterbacks in the lineup, just because it's so hard to envision a game where it's so low scoring in a way where neither of the quarterbacks end up being in the winning lineup. Because for that to happen, just based on how the salary works, it means that you need 6 other players to outscore the quarterbacks. it just isn't that likely. It doesn't happen all that often. So you could build any lineup for contrarian purposes on a showdown slate, but I do think you should be playing at least one of the quarterbacks in your lineup.
I think that's reasonable. I see from Fresno. I'll be out in Fresno next spring for my cousin's wedding. That'll be fun, or my cousin's kid anyway. I guess they're all cousins, right? It's not you. It's niece and nephew. It's
still your cousin.
Yeah. So the next generation.
Still consider your cousin.
Yeah, be hanging out on Shaw and Blackstone, doing whatever. So I would probably take Tucker Kraft to answer your question of which receiver do I like the best with Jordan Love. Receiver meaning pass catcher. That would be where I would want to go.
Yeah, so for me, it is Dontavian Wicks is the pass catcher I have the most exposure to from the Green Bay Packers. It's not to say that other guys aren't viable or anything like that, but the two I have the most exposure to, it's Dontavian Wicks on the low end. On the high end, for me, it's Matthew Golden, but overall, I do have more exposure to Wicks than I have to Golden. Also, one other thing we didn't really talk about, Emac, is some of our favorite multiplier options for tonight. So some of it's obvious, right? Like the field, a lot of people in the field are going to be playing Jordan Love. Josh Jacobs, I think he is the overall best captain to be rostering, but he's also the most popular. We're not exactly breaking news if we told people to go out and play Josh Jacobs. So I'm curious, outside of Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, everybody else is somewhat contrarian at captain. Who's your favorite one of these options who are not either of these guys? Kind of like Thursday Night Football. I took a stand on Marvin Harrison. He ended up being in the winning lineup. He ended up scoring a bunch of fantasy points. Didn't really play particularly well, but he got there from a fantasy standpoint. That's all we care about. Who do you like the most as a contrarian captain tonight?
So for me, I am double the field with my 10% of Dontavian Wicks. I am a tiny bit ahead on Jacobs. I am a tiny bit below on Love. I'm a little bit over on Ferguson. So even though I wasn't sure I would be getting to him, it does seem that there's enough. There are the right discount players that it's okay to play for his what seems to be hefty salary, not so hefty overall. And then I have literally like 5% of everybody else. Now I'm playing 50 lineups, so that means one or two lineups with 8 other players. So, wow, that list is really going down. Mm-hmm. So I'm well represented with those other guys. In the flex, the most heaviest represented player I have is Jacobs at 60%. We got about 45. Jordan Love, I'm matching the field at 50. I seem to be following you with Javonte. I've got 48%. Fields at 38. Wicks, I'm at 42. Fields at 34. So, and I'm a little bit under Prescott. So sort of to answer your question on that quarterback, would you play without him? No, I'd probably want one of them in each lineup, but I'm not going above the field. I'm kind of matching the field, which is a little bit interesting to see there. But that's how my lineup shook out. I'm going to get those loaded now. Are your lineups in, good sir?
Yeah. I am. I'm all good. I'm all set. I'm all loaded. So for me, my favorite contrarian captain is Matthew Golden. We've got him projected for about 5% ownership in the captain spot. And you'll see showing up a good amount in the Sims here as well. Even without making adjustments, Matthew Golden is showing up in the third most amount of lineups. The only captain showing up more, Josh Jacobs and Jordan Love. I slightly prefer Matthew Golden on DraftKings compared to FanDuel just because of the PPR bonus. But with that said, I still think he's a fine MVP option on FanDuel, same as a contrarian DraftKings captain option. So all the same things I said before, I think that Matthew Golden has game-breaking upside. His odds of hitting it, admittedly, are fairly low, but there is no player in this game on the Packers side who I think is more likely to have like a 70-plus yard touchdown than Matthew Golden. And I want to try to get shares of that. I think by the end of the season, there's a very real possibility that Matthew Golden is the number one wide receiver for the Packers. It's just going to take him a little bit of time in the NFL to marinate and to get himself experience and to improve a little bit. But the raw talent is there. He is super, super fast. He is the fastest player on the field for the Green Bay Packers. And I like getting to around 10% of him in the multiplier spot, which is a little bit more than double the field.
All right. What is your overall? Do you have a favorite bet for this game?
Favorite bet? I don't think I placed any individual bets for this game. I've got a bunch for tomorrow. I had a ton. I had over 20 bets I placed for the main slate. But yeah, Emac, I didn't place any bets specifically for tonight. It's hard. Sometimes there just isn't value for an individual game. But I'll take a double look at the board here to see if anything else stands out to me. For yourself, was there anything you saw you thought that was really good value that maybe I'm missing on?
No, you can get Micah Parsons at 0.83 to record half a sack over here on Prize Picks. I like that. I think Williams at 49 rushing yards is kind of interesting. Matthew Golden, 47 receiving yards. I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to take Turpin, I guess.
Okay.
Turpin at over 31 receiving yards.
Yeah. Sometimes I know people don't like this answer, but yeah, sometimes I just don't have a bet for a game.
Well, that was with my $20 risk-free bet. So otherwise I wouldn't have put anything in on that. But sure, I'll make a 4-leg parlay if you're going to give me $20 back if I don't hit it. I'll take that site credit and then put it on something when I have a little more time. I'm okay with that. Who are you afraid of that you don't have enough? Who are you afraid you have too much? I'm afraid I have too much Green Bay defense. I ended up being about 37% in the utility slot, and somehow I have one lineup with the Dallas Cowboy defense at captain. That slipped through. I'm not happy about that.
Yeah, so for me, let me think. Who am I afraid of not having enough of? Maybe Miles Sanders, especially because I have a lot of Javonte Williams. If something was to happen where Williams gets hurt, or just Miles Sanders plays really well, I only have 3% of Sanders, and looks like he's going to be double-digit owned, so that's something that could end up hurting me. I just didn't really find a need to go that cheap at well, I was going to say at the running back spot, but it's just the flex because everybody's just kind of the same position for Showdown. But yeah, I didn't find a need to go that cheap, and it seems like he's going to be pulling some ownership.
All right, I think that's gonna do it. We're about a minute away here from lock, so hopefully, and here the porn bots or the stream bots come. Hopefully, you guys have a good night tonight. We have an NFL doubleheader tomorrow. Kickoff at 7:15. I think game 2 is an hour later. Remember, last time there was a 3-hour difference, so this is kind of making some of their showdown contests a little smaller, especially for that second game than what we saw in week 2. I will be writing an article. Already started working on it for the 2-game slate tomorrow. That will be free. It should be posted right around 11:30 or 12 is usually when that gets posted. So you guys can use that as your baseline. And then we'll have a show tomorrow. I'm assuming 6:15. I believe that will be Spags and Laffy breaking things down.
Oh, a little bit earlier actually tomorrow because it's a two-game slate. We've got the 2-game Monday Night Football doubleheader tomorrow.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, we've got the Broncos. Neither of the games are great, but whatever. We got 2 of them.
Cincy at Denver, and it's New York and Miami.
Yeah, so the good thing about there being the 2 games is even if they aren't the best games on paper, 2 games that just give us double the chance of having a competitive Monday Night Football game. So I'll be on the strategy show with Laffy tomorrow morning, and no baseball at all tomorrow because there just isn't any on the schedule. It's just how it goes. And yeah, it's going to be a little interesting with baseball this week also because all the slates are presumably going to be locking early. I don't know if the schedule came out yet, but it seems like the slates are all going to be locking like around noon or something like that.
They're all locking at 1 o'clock for the first 3 days.
Gotcha.
And the games will be at 1, 3, 6, and 9 for baseball. That, assuming there needs to be game 3s. They'll tweak it if there is not. All right. We're good. Do you have any phone numbers for us?
I do have some phone numbers for us. So want to let you guys know that we are sponsored here by DraftKings Pick 6. So if you guys have not yet checked out DraftKings, go ahead and go to DraftKings.pick6 DraftKings.com, and also trying to find the overlay here, which of course isn't cooperating and showing up on screen. Will let you pull it up, Emac? It won't let me change the things.
I wonder if this is frozen.
All right. Yeah, well, the whole screen isn't working. Whatever. This is outside of our control. But anyway, can you switch to
I don't.
NFL? Does it let you go to in the media assets? Does it let you change to the one that says NFL strategy?
Yes.
Go to that. And then
I
here
got
we
you.
go. There we go. All right. It wouldn't let me change it for whatever reason. StreamYard's being goofy. But go sign up at DraftKings Pick 6, where new customers play $5 in first pick sets and get $50 in bonus picks. If you have a problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus, valid only where Pick 6 operates. See dknj.co/Pick 6 states. This is void in New York and Ontario and where prohibited. Eligibility restrictions do apply. One per new customer, $5 in first pick sets to receive max $50 issued as a non-withdrawable bonus picks that expire in 14 days. This ends on October 13th at 11:59 p.m. Terms can be found at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. This is sponsored by DraftKings. Thank you guys very much. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.